Hello, this is a quiz overview that is covering material in Module 2.1, sections A through E, which reviewed the developmental learning needs and high incidence disabilities. So let's get started. Question 1, which of the following are disability categories according to IDEA? And we have choices A, B, C, D, E, and F. All of the options with the star are the correct answers. So under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, there are 14 disability categories that include autism, deafblindness, deafness, developmental delay, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, or OHI, specific learning disability, or SLD, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury, or TBI, and visual impairment, including blindness. So the incorrect answer here is B. Non-specific learning disability is not one of the categories, nor does it exist, I don't think. The next question is, which of the following statements apply to specific learning disabilities? And then I've got 4 choices there. Moving to the answer, the correct answers here are B and D. So A is incorrect because specific learning disabilities is actually the highest prevalence of disability that you will see. Approximately 35% of students that are qualifying under IDEA are qualifying under SLD. B, students can have more than one SLD. C is incorrect. This does not require a physician diagnosis. These students are actually identified as they go through RTI and going through tiers, and then when they don't respond, that's when they're referred for a comprehensive evaluation, usually by the school psychologist. So usually these students with SLD do not meet the state-approved age or grade level standards, and there's a gap based on their age and their performance in categories of oral expression, listening, comprehension, written expression, reading skills, fluency, comprehension, math calculations, problem solving, etc. There are a lot of specific categories and aspects to all of these. And so these are marked by specific processes rather than a global intellectual disability. And I just kind of mentioned a few, like you could have a specific math disability, and you could even break that into categories, and it could be issues with problem solving, or maybe having issues with just calculations. But anyways, that's something I want to learn more about. Moving on. Students with specific learning disabilities are generally behind in all academic areas, true or false? So the answer to this one is false. Specific learning disabilities include, or it means that the student has a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes that involve understanding or using language that shows up in a way that the student doesn't have the best ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or do math calculations. So you do have students that maybe, well, as I said in the previous slide, are able to read words, but they have a deficit in reading comprehension. they may be able to read and comprehend text, but then they may have issues in math. So that's why this one is false, is because students could be actually working at grade level in some areas. Okay, this question is, a medical diagnosis of ADHD guarantees eligibility of services. True or false? And the answer to this one is false. So ADHD eligibility is provided under the other health impairment disability category. And according to the OHI definition, whatever health condition is limiting that student, it has to be shown that it is adversely affecting that child's educational performance. However, students that do have ADHD could be eligible for services through a Section 504 plan if they're not eligible under the OHI category. Autism spectrum disorder is characterized by delays and differences in which areas? And we have 4 choices: communication, alertness, behavior, and social interaction. The correct answers here are A, C, and D: communication, behavior, and social interaction. So B, alertness, is incorrect because this is a characteristic that's described in the IDEA definition of OHI. The major characteristics of autism spectrum disorder include deficits in social communication, social interaction across contexts, and also restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interest, or activities. So those are the 3 areas that ASD is characterized by. Why has the number of ASD or autism diagnoses increased so much? So the prevalence of this disorder has increased a lot, and this was noted in the IRIS modules as well as the presentation by the lecturer. And the answers here are A and B. So autism, the prevalence has increased a lot. Some people believe due to just more awareness of parents and medical providers. They're all paying more attention and intervening early. A lot of pediatricians are performing autism screeners at various ages. So the DSM-5 umbrella now also, right now I'm addressing option B, the new diagnostic criteria. So the DSM-5 has changed their criteria that actually now includes autistic disorder, Asperger's, and pervasive developmental disorder, whereas before these all were their own categories. So now they're all bunched together, so it increases the number. C is incorrect because no, everyone does not have it. And D is also incorrect. Research has shown that the thimerosal that is an ingredient in many vaccines does actually not have a causative link to autism, although this was thought to be true in previous years. It is not thought to be true now. Select ways teachers can support students with autism. The answers here are that teachers can work on behavior skills that carry over into the home setting. They can always be a connection between parents and community support and community networks, and also just staying involved with families in general and being in communication. A is incorrect here because around 40% of students with autism actually spend their school day in the general education classroom, and only around 1/3 of autism students require instruction in a separate classroom. I think this is important for teachers to know and understand because they will most definitely be educating students with this disability, even if they're not a special education teacher. Which term describes when a student has more than one disability? And the correct answer here is B, comorbidity, which basically means that you've got more than one thing going on at a time. So many students with disabilities will have other conditions known as comorbidities. For example, speech and language impairments commonly co-occur with SLD, ADHD, and autism. Also, students with ADHD have an increased likelihood of the comorbidity with a learning disability or another psychiatric disorder. So there's a lot more common connections between disabilities and other medical diagnoses, but these are just a few that I noted in my notes. Select all that apply to the IDEA definition of speech and language impairment. And I forgot to select the answer here, but the incorrect answer here is B. A, C, and D are all correct. Dyslexia actually falls under the specific learning disability category, and speech and language impairments do include communication disorders that could include stuttering, impaired articulation, language or voice impairment, and they also need to be shown to adversely affect a child's education performance. And that sums it up for